Hi, everyone. So this weekend, Saturn is stationing retrograde in Pisces. I've spoken a lot about the greater context of Saturn and Neptune together, but it's valuable just to drop in to the energy, to the felt experience of Saturn itself. Saturn retrograde will always sort of bring us face to face with the structural reality of our lives. And it's not necessarily going to say, here's what to do about it. It's just going to say, this is what's going on. As I've spoken, Saturn isn't reality, but it's a reality check. It's like, look at your life. Look around. This is your life. Now, Saturn in Pisces can say, this is your life now, not the life you've been dreaming of or hoping for or expecting that will somehow magically all work out in the end. I think we often, frequently, have a sort of assumptive attitude that it's all going to be okay. And while it is, in a true sense, already okay and going to be okay, this can become sort of a matter of spiritual bypassing where we override the necessity to actually take responsibility for and meet the conditions of our life as it actually is right now. So this can be a sort of unchecked naivety of just assuming and expecting that it's all going to work out. This is the adolescent attitude of Saturn, just knowing that it's all going to work out. Got my mother or my father is going to take care of the messy pieces. Saturn stationing retrograde in Pisces can be a sort of sombering and maybe depressing reality check. This is what's happening. This is the structural reality of my life. And the psychological experience of this can actually feel like we're in jail, right? Saturn, it's stuck. These are the conditions. This is actually what's going on. You can't just like wish it away or bypass it. It's actually happening. And there's sort of like a tether on a rope. To a certain extent, we can live in denial. And then these kinds of transits happening, mind you, Neptune is stationing retrograde like on Tuesday of this week as well, really close to Saturn. So these kinds of times come up and we just say, my mercy, this is my life. This is what's going on. And I want to share two stories and examples of this transit I think might be very illuminating for us. So I recall hearing from Adyashanti once this story of a friend of his who we described as like a garden variety alcoholic. He drank, was very integrated and sort of normalized in his life. Maybe other people also drink, and I think that's a common thing, right? Like Saturn and Pisces can be sort of normalized escapism or normalized addiction. There are ways in which society, in all kinds of ways, normalizes unhealthy behavior. But it's not an issue. It's fine. It's normal, right? You can buy it. You can get it. You can do it at a party, at synagogue, at church. Maybe not at church. Synagogue. There are all these different facets of human behavior and experience and things that we consume that are just normal. Of course you get drunk at a party. That's normal. But there comes a point where this normalized lack of alignment becomes so dysfunctional that you can't just say, oh, this is okay. I'm okay. I got this. This is just how it is, right? So this individual was arrested driving under the influence, was put in jail. And sitting in jail, he had this realization, like for the first time in maybe years, by God, I'm an alcoholic. Like that was a moment of realizing I have a drinking problem, right? This is Saturn retrograde. I have an issue with my boundaries, right? The boundaries in my life aren't stable, right? We can be way too soft where we need to be a little more firm, or maybe too harsh, too controlling where we need to soften up a little bit. There can be structural facets of our life that just feel totally out of alignment, but we don't know how to change it. We're stuck in it. And it's not going to be some kind of like entreat to God and pray and hope. And there is a deep dimension of spiritual guidance that needs to be a part of this. But we need to actually accept first and foremost the actual stark reality of things as they are actually right now. Otherwise, we will just continue to try to escape them, but not actually yield to their necessary and very, very important lesson. So this is a part of spiritual maturity for all of us. And it's hard, right? It's hard. It says your life, your relationships, your money, your health, any part of your life, your addictions, look at them. This is what's going on. If we're not where we want to be, it's because where we are right now isn't in congruency with that. So here's another story. I don't like to get political, and I'm not going to get political, but I am going to give a political example because I think it's really illustrative. And you can even look at their charts of these individuals and you'll see these themes very fascinating, very clearly. So here in the US, we recently had a debate of sorts for the two main presidential nominees. After the debate, many people of the Democratic Party who want Biden to win felt sort of disheartened and disillusioned. It became very evident Biden's mental decline, right? How hard it was to speak and articulate himself. Many people began to lose faith in his capacity to win. Many people in the Democratic Party that were otherwise supporting him are calling for him to step down. So there's this, and in the media for months, they were like denying Biden's okay, his mental health is totally fine, Now everyone is sort of questioning that. A lot of people are. It's unavoidable. People are questioning it who are otherwise not questioning it. So I'm not giving an opinion or a personal view on any of this. I'm just saying this is clearly what's happening. Clear, and people are like, what do we do about it? No, he should stay. He should stick with it. No, he should step out. This is like the disillusionment of hope and faith and meaning in our leaders, in our president. So Saturn is the president. Pisces is loss of hope and faith, okay? On the other end of this, we have Donald Trump of the Republican Party. He's gone up in the polls, right? For many people, that's great. For many people, that's like, good, our guy is winning. For many people, that's like horrible and a point of despair. And this Saturn stationing retrograde can feel like one of two things, but it's neither, okay? It can feel like a reward, like we're being rewarded, or it can feel like we're being punished. Those are both projections because we have this tendency, kind of like a child, to interpret the external events in life, like whatever happens, as like signs of like, oh, I'm a good person. Yay, God's got my back. Or like, oh, I must have done something wrong and I'm being punished. But none of that is actually useful. It's sort of more of an immature way of thinking. Everything that's reflecting in our life is simply saying, this is what is. But what are you going to do about it? Like Saturn never asks us to rest on our laurels, right? Whatever that term is. It requires effort. To get to where we want to go, we want to put an effort to cultivate ourselves in that direction. And if things are going great, it may not go great tomorrow. We can't just expect it. If things are going bad, it might not just continue that way. To live in a way where we're not just sort of like hoping, trusting in the happen sense of what may or may not happen, but like personalizing it as if it has personal meaning, isn't going to work. And Saturn in Pisces retrograde isn't going to reward that kind of behavior, to use that term in an incorrect way. So getting out of the whole idea of reward and punishment, it's about self-responsibility. To get to where I want to go in life, authentically, sincerely, what do I need to work on? And there might be a need to not like have an answer right away, like not run towards, I figured it out, but to steep in sort of maybe the broodiness of like, oh, this is hard. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. In the same way, like the tortoise and the hare, any time where we're just like depending upon things working out in a particular direction, Saturn in Pisces retrograde is going to be like water slipping through our fingers. Any kind of like false hope or naivety or arrogance or expecting, it's just going to be like, oh, I guess that didn't work out. So here's a deeper dimension of Saturn stationing retrograde in Pisces. When it comes down to it, we need to be able to and be willing to become better learners. Obviously, what's not working in our life is a result of poor learning, right? Thoughts and decisions and ways of thinking that maybe aren't so helpful or useful. There's a beautiful quote from A Course in Miracles that says, I now resign as my own teacher. To resign as our own teacher acknowledges there are lessons here to learn. There's wisdom to learn. And we need to be able to and be willing to assess our ideas and our judgments. Where are we placing these strong boundaries and judgments in our life that might be somewhat misplaced? Our otherwise ethics and moralities might want to do good and be a good person, but where might our own maybe guilt, right, be keeping us from ways of thinking, ways of seeing decisions that might actually be necessary in the long term. And the other dimension to this is our grievances and our fears will also really keep us from seeing something new. It will keep us from learning and seeing new possibilities, right? Whenever we're stuck in a conditioned way of thinking, we're going to see our lives as sort of fixed and stuck. Like there's no solution. There's no way out of it. And this is where the prayerful attitude of I'm willing to see differently. All of my grievances, all of my judgments, they're kind of keeping me in jail. There's a more forgiving and permissive way of living that draws upon my deeper potential, my deeper birthright for greater joy and wellness. But I need to be willing to put forth effort, and I need to be willing, and here's a catchphrase, fundamentally to be wrong. To be wrong about you, to be wrong about myself, to be wrong about how things are supposed to look. And I just think in general, being willing for things to go in a different way, for the forms to take on a different expression might be the hardest thing, because that's where we're going to hold on. That's where we're going to keep all of the deeper feelings and emotions sort of suppressed. Everything has to stay the same, but it might not need to be. And this might be a gradual and a slow and a deep opening up. We can see later this year, in the next couple of months really, when Jupiter joins to square Saturn, and especially at the end of the year next, so much will be opening. Like Jupiter will reveal whatever dysfunction needs to be seen. You can absolutely rest assured that Jupiter will reveal more of where we need to embrace fundamental change and reflection at this time. So I want to close with just this final reflection on guidance, because I think this is where the spiritual dimension of Pisces is absolutely necessary. If we are to learn a new way, we have to be open and available to that learning. And we're not depending on our past. We're not depending on our own conditioning. I once had a dream where Lao Tzu appeared, in the appearance of Lao Tzu at least, and said to me that the I Ching, which is an oracle, is both within you and wiser than you. Right? When I consult the I Ching, I find that it's really going to speak to what I already know, especially if I'm in tune with it, right? If I'm really listening and quiet, I will sense there's a teaching here. And often the I Ching will give me that answer that kind of coalesces and speaks exactly to what I was intuiting. It's wiser than my own conditioned understanding and what I'm able to consciously fully access, but it's right there, deep within my own intuitive knowing already. I think for all of us, this Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a calling to develop our own guidance system. That is the only thing that will lead us through this journey. The way that we each develop that guidance system is for each one of us to cultivate. It's something that I'm figuring out, and I respect our own journey in that regard. But what's true for all of us is when we connect to that guidance system, it takes us more within to our own agency and simultaneously humbles us as we recognize we are best being open and receptive learners because we got ourselves into this mess with our thinking. And it's not our own conditioned thinking that will get us out of it. Okay. So I want to close this teaching with a reading from that section of A Course in Miracles that I shared a bit earlier. You do not know the meaning of love, and that is your handicap. Do not attempt to teach yourself what you do not understand, and do not try to set up curriculum goals where yours have clearly failed. Your learning goal has not been learn, has been to not learn. And this cannot lead to successful learning, right? Just think about our learning goal has not been to learn. It has been to sustain whatever we're wanting to prove and hold up as true. And that has not led to learning. I have said that the ego's rule is seek and do not find, which is a great rule. Translated into curricular terms, this means try to learn but do not succeed. You who have tried to learn what you do not want should take heart. For although the curriculum you set yourself is depressing indeed, it is merely ridiculous if you look at it. Is it possible that the way to achieve a goal is not to attain it? Resign now as your own teacher. This resignation will not lead to depression. It is merely the result of an honest appraisal of what you have taught yourself and the learning outcomes that have resulted. Under the proper learning conditions, which you can neither provide nor understand, which is beautiful, You will become an excellent learner and an excellent teacher, but it is not so yet. And you will not be so until the whole learning situation as you have set it up is reversed. Your learning properly understood is limitless because it will lead you to God. This is just so beautiful. So may this be so for all of us. May this be a deeply fruitful, spiritually enlivening and healing time for all of us. Thank you all for watching. To receive these teachings in your inbox, I often write articles in conjunction with these video teachings. These articles are very thought out, very articulate, and often just express these from another angle or just some deeper dimensions. For me, the writing process is a way of further integrating and kind of taking these learnings into my own bones. So in the description, you can also subscribe to receive these in your inbox. Thank you.